Tadria. I am a feminist, African woman feminist. I'm an activist. I am a founder of MEMPRO, Mentoring and Empowerment Program for Young Women, which I set up to work with young women, especially focusing on addressing their self-esteem, giving knowledge, especially passing on knowledge on key issues like sexual reproductive health and their rights. I'm also a co-founder of the African Women Development Fund. It is an Africa-wide fund which I co-founded with two other women, one from Ghana and another one from Nigeria. I am also a member of the African Women Leaders Network on Sexual and Reproductive Health, and I'm really very privileged to be on this because it does meet my need, especially for advocacy on sexual reproductive health and rights of young women. My program, my organization, MEMPRO, deals with young women between 14 years and 25 years. When I started the program, I thought the key issue was simply to go into schools and meet young women, to go into institutions of learning and meet young women and talk about personal empowerment. But when I got to talking with the young women, I realized that their issues were way beyond simply building self-esteem. They have very little information and knowledge about their rights. They have very little understanding of the sexual reproductive health, and definitely they have very little understanding of their rights. So for me, the African Women Leaders Network gives me an opportunity to advocate for young women's rights across all areas, especially the rights to stay in education and rights to make a choice in sexual reproductive health. One of the ways that I believe I am taking the agenda of the African women's leadership forward is that when I have young women's, especially convenings, we meet once a month, we focus on advocacy on sexual reproductive health, on sexual reproductive rights, and we actually bring in people to talk about facilities and services available for sexual and reproductive health and family planning. And I found that the level of knowledge, whether it's young people or older women, the level of knowledge on family planning, on sexual reproductive health is very, very low. So it's just that I find it shocking that a woman could finish university or is in university and actually does not know anything about sexual reproductive health. Some of them have very little understanding of how their menstrual cycle works. These are simple issues. But then, of course, when you go into reproductive health issues, a lot of people do not understand, for example, especially the young women. And in Uganda, we have a high incidence of teenage pregnancy, of sexual violence. Young women, some of them, I've talked to them who have become pregnant, and they say they actually do not know how they became pregnant. And I find that, for me, very, very critical for advocacy, but also for empowering young women with knowledge on sexual reproductive health. I think one of the things that I really would like to do in the future is that I believe in creating a powerful movement of young women who have the capacity to advocate for their rights. When we, especially we feminists, older feminists, do advocacy work, the challenge usually is, why are you speaking for others? Of course, we are speaking for others because we have the privilege of being able to speak out. But I think for me, my goal is to make sure that I create a movement of young women who have the capacity, the knowledge, and the confidence to speak for themselves about their rights. There are some areas where I know it's very difficult, especially when working with young people. We live in a very conservative environment where they are brought up to believe that they are not half as good as the men. But I believe that we are creating a movement of young women who have the self-confidence to call themselves feminists and to mobilize and advocate for their rights. If, for us at MEMPRO, what our dream is really to set up a center which has integrated services. And I must say that in my visits, especially in this network, I know that it's possible to set up centers that can serve young women's needs. Our future goal, both for me, I like to integrate my work with MEMPRO because it actually addresses the needs and rights of young women with the goals of the African Women's Leadership Network. I would like to combine, and the combination for me is setting up a process where young women can take over the advocacy for sexual and reproductive health that we African women leaders have committed ourselves to. If we can pass on the baton, then we know that it will be sustainable.